What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. This video is the third episode of my prep series, and I'm going to be going through a full arm workout. I've also got a few little rants and a few other little bits that I want to go through, but we're literally going to go straight into the video today. I've already recorded it, as you can see behind me, the new lighting setup. Already recorded it, so we've got it right here. I'm going to jump into this in 3, 2, 1. Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video going into the arm day. I'm essentially just going to run you through my arm day because they're not ones that I do all the time. Generally, when it comes to the arm days, because it is an area that I'm trying to bring up at the minute, I train my arms with all my upper body days, and then occasionally I will just add in a separate arm day. It will either usually replace a rest day if I feel like I don't necessarily need that entire day of rest, or I will kind of just input it essentially when I feel that I could just benefit a little bit more from training arms rather than something like legs. So for example, if I get to leg day and I find that my legs aren't fully recovered, or they're not at a point where I'll kind of want to go into doing some heavy squats or something like that, I'll rotate an arm day in beforehand, just to give me that extra day. When it comes to my arm days, generally what I find is that because I train upper body quite a lot, obviously, if you are just training arms a hell of a lot, one of the first things that usually comes up is like elbow injuries. So obviously things like tendonitis and stuff like that. So one of the really, really important things and crucial things that I've kind of learned over the years, and one of the things that I've implemented this year, and it's made a massive difference to kind of stopping any sort of injury or stopping any sort of kind of setbacks which stop me from training arms to 100%, is taking a bit of a different approach of it in regards to like the smart and hard training. So it's kind of almost like a theory that I've just kind of made up in the top of my head. But essentially, you've got different types of exercises or different ways that you can approach exercises. You can either approach them in a smart way, doing things like the one you've got here, using cuffs, which obviously takes, less like kind of pressure off the wrist joint and other joints sort of thing, just because it is allowing you to kind of freely move where your like wrists and hands and stuff want to go. So obviously, it's taking less pressure off your joints. That, in my mind, is kind of like a smart movement. You're playing it smart. You're not necessarily going to go crazy and be, taking that muscle to absolute, complete and utter failure. Do you know what I mean? The idea is to obviously get close, but, realistically, I don't think when you're doing a smart exercise like this, you're actually going to go to complete failure, just because you're not going to be using those kind of like secondary muscles and stuff like that to, help the primary muscle get to failure. With smarter exercises, generally it's like really focusing on form. So you'll see the first two exercises that I do in this arm session, obviously on the bicep part, they're kind of smart exercises. They're really like isolated, and making sure that everything's pinned in place and making sure that execution and form is like pristine. It just makes sure that, very little stress is going anywhere apart from on the muscle that I'm training, which is obviously the bicep. So obviously started off by using a lot of things, sort of like the bench, or not the bench, but the platform to stand on, just to get me at a better height, because I'm a short ass. Using obviously the cuffs rather than just the bar, take a little bit of pressure off the wrists. Then I go into doing these. Obviously, leaning back is putting the bicep is like in a further extended position. And obviously you'll see with my elbows, I look like I've got a proper fat chubby elbow, but you'll see with my elbows, obviously I'm pinning them right in place. I'm not using like, my delts or anything like that to help. It's literally just keeping my elbow pinned in place and, just using the bicep literally to lift the dumbbell. And what you'll find is if you kind of stand up or sit up even, what you often do is use the front delt and end up kind of like almost swinging a little bit, even if it's a tiny little bit, even if it's like just a little bit of momentum you're getting from it. Obviously with this, it's not really happening. I actually inclined the bench one, just because I wanted to see the difference. I actually think I prefer it like a click back. But yeah, again, like it's all like trial and error, this stuff. Like even when you've been training, I think I've been training like 8 or 9 years now. I still try different stuff out because as I grow, I change shape as I, go into an off season, and I kind of, my body composition and stuff changes. So does the way you have to perform some exercises in order to do it like optimally. So, spider curls are the next one with dumbbells. I actually really, really like these, especially for the contraction at the top. Really, really good. So it's something I've been implementing recently. You don't have to go too heavy on them. Again, I was using a little bit more momentum on these ones. I could time a little bit more, but ideally the goal is to kind of keep everything, exactly still. I generally go quite light on these. I haven't been doing them for that long, so I'm not like someone who's been doing them for ages. They're a very, very new exercise I've implemented in, but I'm really, really enjoying them. What else to go through for bicep? So, you have the two heads of the bicep. You've got the long head and the short head. The short head's generally like the inside. Long head is like kind of like the outside, or where it inserts on the outside. I don't know. I almost think that a lot of people like overthink it. Like, it's fucking arm day. Like, you don't have to like be a scientist to figure out how to do a good arm day. You just have to, put exercises in order which makes sense, and kind of, like, obviously you don't want to be just doing everything which is directly focusing on the short head. So you don't want to be doing like loads of things like fucking, I don't know, like spider curls and stuff like that. Mix it up a little bit, do a little bit of both, like, play around with your programming. Everyone's going to be different. Everyone's got different insertions and stuff like that. So it is, going to be different. Obviously, going into the hammer curls, I always take hammer curls. Hammer curls are like almost my like train hard exercise. So for me is like where I'll kind of maybe take form out the window a little bit. Like, the goal is to obviously always make sure that form is good, but I will almost I'm willing to sacrifice, a little bit of form. I'm willing to use a little bit of momentum on hammer curls, because I think it's more beneficial just fucking going crazy on them. Like literally just, like, a lot of people get OCD on form. They think that, you have to have perfect form or you get injured, or, it's not gonna use the targeted muscle as much. But, in reality, like, do you know what I mean? Look at like fucking all the best bodybuilders in the world, like Ronnie Coleman, like fucking Dorian Yates. Like, not all of those, and like even you look at top bodybuilders these days, like Sean Roden, fucking Phil Heath. Like, you see them like swinging the dumbbells a little bit. Do you know what I mean? You need to use those like secondary muscles, sometimes to help you take the primary muscle, which in this case is obviously like the bicep, to complete and utter failure. So, with things like hammer curls, I will sacrifice a little bit of form. Like, I'm happy to do that. I know that, there's very little chance that I'm going to get injured doing something like a hammer curl, because it is a very, kind of safe exercise. So yeah, I do things like, like triple drop sets, or do drop sets. If I'm going to do something that's, like a drop set, I'll generally do it on an exercise like this, where I can just go kind of like balls to the wall and not have to really be too like, fucking OCD on form. So you'll see, like, I do swing a little bit. The way that I do them as well, usually I do like 2 sets. If I do hammer curls, I'll do one that's kind of like directly forward, and then I'll do one that's kind of like in a little bit, again, just to kind of hit the muscle from like a slightly different angle. And you'll notice that, generally throughout my sessions, regardless of what I'm training, like, I always, slightly tweak things here and there. It might be that, I've got like a really big pump in my biceps, so I'll just change the angle a little bit just so I can get a better contraction. You kind of got to play with it like in the session, and that's why, I think a lot of the time people people like look at it as a science, when science is involved in bodybuilding, is obviously a big part of it, but at the same time, like, unless you're in the gym performing the exercise, you like half the time you can't give advice on it. Do you know what I mean? You can't like criticize on it. So yeah, if you're someone that likes going balls deep on fucking hammer curls, go ahead and don't be afraid to give a little bit of a swing. I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant in a minute as well, just about the whole body fat thing, because I thought it was, I've been kind of called out on it by Mr. TM Cycles, not that I have any sort of issue with him at all. We had a little chat on Instagram, or not necessarily a chat, but we had a little back and forth on Instagram, and I noticed he called me out on his YouTube video. I don't know if it was intentional, or well, I think it was, but we're going to go into that in a minute. After I finished the biceps. So yeah, I like finished off like concentration curls. That's something that I've been doing for the last like year or so. Just yeah, probably like my favorite bicep exercise, even though it's just like you look like a little bitch doing it, because I only do them with like 8 kilos, so it's like super, super light. Again, it's like something that's very little stress on the joint. In the past, I've had slight issues with like elbows and stuff, just because I've always been quite a strong presser. I always go quite heavy with like pulls and stuff like that. So obviously incorporating like a lot of arm movements, especially when I'm also on my laptop a lot, doing obviously programming stuff for clients, editing the stuff on here. Then it's kind of, there's a lot of like moving the elbow. whereas kind of incorporating a lot more like lighter stuff, a lot more like concentrated stuff is definitely helped that. Triceps, I really like if you have chains in your gym and you have one of these, I think this is the hammer strength. If you have chains in the gym, it's fucking awesome on this bit of kit. Like, it makes so much difference. I always find that, you know, when you're at the kind of like extended range on the kind of push down, obviously because you are a lot stronger in that position, these machines almost like don't match it. So the profile of the exercise doesn't match like your body's like kind of profile for this movement. And I find that you end up, once you kind of push it down halfway, it's almost like there's just no resistance there. Whereas if you put chains on, obviously the further you push it down, the heavier it gets. And I just find, like, especially on your triceps, like as they get stronger, as they kind of contract, it just makes such a difference. It just makes such a difference, and you get like such a better kind of like contraction and stuff from it, and you can actually take your muscle to proper failure. Because I find that if I don't put these chains on the machine, I have to slap like 4 or 5 plates on each side, and then I'm always hitting failure when I'm right at the top. Whereas with like sticking chains on, I can kind of, you know, do drop sets or whatever, or I can even just kind of push it to failure pretty much on, you know, just like it is at the moment. I think what I did on this set is I was just kind of playing around with it, like obviously taking a chain off each time. It's kind of like a drop set essentially, but I was finding that, you know, the further and further that I got into it, like the shortened range, so when obviously like my triceps contracted, because of the pump and stuff that was like in my tricep, it was becoming harder and harder to contract the tricep. So just taking the chains off to kind of slowly like reduce or like slowly change like the resistance profile of it and reduce a little bit of weight at the same time, just allowed me to kind of like go until my arms felt like a fucking drop off my body. But this is definitely something I'll be doing on push days. It's something I'll be doing on arm days. I just absolutely love this exercise. Again, like, you know, it's different for everyone. Like, you know, just because I have like 4 chains on it and that, you know, might be the right resistance profile for me and my body and stuff like that, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the same for you. If you're like a little bit taller, if you're sat in a different position, you know, if your triceps are like inserted slightly differently, you know, if they're stronger than mine, if they're weaker than mine, you know, you might have a different resistance profile on this machine. So you might find that maybe you don't need to have any chains on it at all. You might need to have potentially like 2 chains. You might need to have like 1.5. So that's why like experience is so important, and knowing your body is so important. Like, go in the gym, try this sort of stuff out. Don't be afraid to be like laughed at or be fucking criticized, because, you know, you don't know unless you go in there and actually try it out. On to push down. So I personally, like, when it comes to doing these, we are kind of like limited in the gym that I train in like attachments. I don't like the ropes that we have in the gym. I think I use one in a minute, but they're not the long ones. So for me personally, because I'm quite wide at the minute, if I use a short rope, it puts a lot of pressure on my elbows. I don't particularly like it, but if I do these, and instead of kind of like, I see a lot of people almost like pulling them down, so doing like a kind of extension of the, you know, just kind of keeping your elbows directly still and kind of doing an extension of the elbow, obviously, because you're doing a fucking tricep exercise. But what I prefer to do with these is almost do a press, so almost like press it in front of me. Yes, you can go heavier. Yes, it looks a little bit more sloppy, but I personally find that it takes a lot more pressure off my elbows, and I just feel it a lot better in my triceps. I don't know if it's just because of the way that I'm built. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I just feel it a hell of a lot better, and I also feel like I can do a lot more weight. I can put a lot more load on the tricep without it kind of, you know, kind of building up on my elbows or shoulders. So again, yeah, I went on to doing these. I do really like these exercises. I really like it using the ropes. But the more chunky I get, the more kind of difficult it becomes, and the less I like it, just because trying to pin my elbows in when doing these exercises is just a pain in the ass. You'll notice as well, I do kind of hunch over forward. It's just so that I don't use my lats to pull it down. And now we will go into the fat rant. So this is my current condition. Currently like 35 weeks out, 34 weeks out. Currently 200 and 19 pounds. I think this is from a couple days ago. It wasn't from the same session. But yeah, recently, like on social media and stuff, been called out for talking about body fat during the off season. Like, it is opinion. Like, I don't have any issues with like Thomas Moore, like TM Cycles, or anybody else who has a different opinion. Like, I don't like care. Like, I think he's a nice guy. I think, you know, anyone who wants a little bit of a debate on something, like, I'm more than happy to go into a debate on any sort of topic. You know, I've also got t-shirts that I brought out as a bit of a laugh, saying that I'm not fat, I'm bulking. I think it's funny. A lot of other people think it's funny. A few people obviously fucking don't, and that's cool. Like, if you don't find it funny, then, you know, don't buy one. But, you know, body fat during the off season, I don't think I've pushed it too far. I don't think I'm fat at all at the moment. Like, I could push another, you know, 10, 20 pounds on top of what I've done at the minute, and I'll be more than happy. Again, it's down to personal preference. Like, I know I can get it off. I know that performance-wise, it was worth it. And, you know, I will always, you know, kind of recommend to other people, like clients and, you know, people on here, you know, it is individual. Like, if you want to put more body fat on and you feel comfortable doing it, you feel that you can perform better with it on, and you know that you can get it off, then go for it. If you don't and you would rather stay lean because you're too afraid to kind of put on too much body fat for whatever reason, then don't do it. Do you know what I mean? It's personal preference, but for me, I know this will pay off. It's paid off every year. Every year that I've kind of put on, you know, a good chunk of body fat during the off season, it's always paid off. So that's my personal opinion on it. I think that people are just way too like involved with other people's decisions and stuff these days. Like, personally, I think that, you know, if you look at like the way that people respond to a lot of things, like I looked at a video, you know, obviously like George Osborne. I don't know if many people follow George Osborne on here, probably because he's got a big following than me on YouTube. You know, he's decided to jump on steroids recently. And like loads of people, he did a video, I think, with AJ Morris, and saying that loads of people have been giving him shit for it and all that sort of stuff. Like, you know, like, who's like, it's no one's fucking right to have a go at someone else for their decisions. Fair enough if it's, you know, I think if you're like preaching something bad which could potentially put someone's health in danger, like, quite seriously, then fair enough. But if it's just your own decision and your own opinion on something, it has no dangerous effects to anyone else, then in my opinion, like, why even comment? But yeah, that's my opinion. Again, if you don't agree with it, then don't watch my shit. Don't follow me, you know. That's it. You know, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not like saying this as a kind of like get back at Tom or anyone else who disagrees with like gaining body fat in off season. Like, I personally think that he's, you know, a really nice guy. Like, I do follow him. I watch his, you know, YouTube videos and stuff like that. So, you know, we trained in the past, and I thought he was generally like a nice guy. But, you know, if he doesn't think the same about me, that's fine. But, you know, what are you going to do? That's going to be today's YouTube video wrapped up. I'm going to be bringing like loads more of these out. I've got absolutely tons planned. I've got a pool day video that I'm going to be bringing out next week. And then I think I've got like another leg day video. I'm going to do some like more day in the life stuff, but just at the minute, I'm so caught up with like training, eating, coaching, and it's literally just like a spiral of what I'm doing at the minute. So I don't really like know what to do if I do like a day in the life video. But I'm also going to be doing some weekly like prep update videos as well, because I realised that these ones tend to go kind of more into training and more into like what I'm doing on that side of things. So I'm going to kind of be doing separate videos where I just stand here and chat to you, not kind of doing like a voiceover. Going through like my nutrition, going through like my weight, going through like, you know, basically what has happened each week during my prep. Because I put it on Instagram, quite a few people said that they wanted to see it, so I'm going to be doing that. So I think tomorrow I'm going to be recording that one. It'll be the first of, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's going to be kind of like prep updates for 2020. But anyway, that's today's little rant. That's today's video over. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see another one, give it a like. If you're one of Thomas Moore's fans and you don't like me kind of calling him out, kind of back on here, feel free to drop a dislike on the video. I'm sure a few of you will. Any questions or anything like that, drop it in the comments. And again, thank you for anyone who's watched the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.